The cheap white plates were stacked where my wedding china used to be. I stood in my kitchen, staring at the cabinet that had held my mother's gift for 43 years. Delicate porcelain with hand-painted blue flowers, each piece carefully preserved through decades of holidays and anniversaries and Sunday dinners. Gone. All of it. Donated to Goodwill like garbage. Replaced with $4 IKEA plates that could have come from any college dorm room. Don't you dare argue with my wife in her house. The words came from behind me. My son Marcus, my firstborn, the child I'd raised in this home, the man I'd put through engineering school, was standing in my kitchen doorway, his face twisted with rage I'd never seen before. Her house, not our house, not my house, her house. The house I'd bought in 1992, the house I'd spent 35 years paying for, the house with my name, Dorothy Chen, alone on the deed after my husband David died. According to my son, it belonged to the woman he'd known for 11 months, the woman who'd just thrown away my wedding china without asking. The woman standing behind him now with her arms crossed and a small, satisfied smile on her face. I should have seen it coming. But to understand how my golden child became someone I barely recognized, I need to take you back 3 months, to the phone call that started everything, to the moment I said yes when I should have said no. Before we continue, I want to know, where are you listening to this right now? Drop a comment with your city or country. I want to understand who's part of this community, and whether you're hearing this story in a place that feels safe and yours. Because what I'm about to tell you is about what happens when the place that should feel safest becomes a battlefield. 3 months earlier, my phone rang on a Sunday afternoon while I was dusting the china cabinet, the one David had built for me as our 10th anniversary gift. Mom, can Amber and I come over? We need to talk to you about something. Marcus's voice had that careful tone people use when they're about to ask for something big. Of course, honey. I'll make pot roast. They arrived an hour later. Marcus is 35, a mechanical engineer at an aerospace company, makes about $95,000 a year. Stable career, good benefits. Everything David and I had worked so hard to give him the opportunity to achieve. Amber Klein, his wife of 6 months, is 32, works in marketing for a tech startup. She arrived in a crisp white blouse and designer jeans, her dark hair pulled back in that sleek ponytail that made my comfortable cardigan feel suddenly dowdy. We sat in my living room, the room where David used to read the newspaper every Sunday, where we'd opened Christmas presents for 23 years, where I'd told my sons their father had died of a heart attack 5 years ago. Mom, Marcus began, holding Amber's hand, we need to ask you something, and I want you to know we'll understand completely if you say no. That should have been my warning. When someone says no is acceptable, they're asking for something where no should be the answer. Amber and I have been saving for a house down payment. We've got $18,000 saved, but we need at least $60,000 to get into anything decent in this market. Our lease is up next month, and rent just jumped to $2,200 for our 1-bedroom. I did the math automatically. Accountant's habit. $26,000 a year disappearing into rent. What we're wondering is, could we stay here with you? Just 6 to 8 months while we save the rest? If we're not paying rent, we could save almost $3,000 a month. I looked at my son sitting in the spot where he used to do homework, where he'd asked for the car keys before his first date, where he'd cried the night his father died. Of course you can stay, I said. This is your home. Amber's face lit up. Mrs. Chen, thank you so much. We promise we won't be any trouble. We'll help with groceries and utilities. Marcus hugged me. Thanks, Mom. You're saving us. And there it was. The moment I said yes when I should have asked questions, when I should have set boundaries, when I should have trusted the small voice whispering, be careful. But how do you say no to your own child asking for help? You don't. At least, I didn't. They moved in the following Saturday with surprisingly little. 4 suitcases, some kitchen items Amber called essential, a few boxes of clothes. That first week was pleasant. Marcus would get home from work and we'd cook together like old times. Amber set the table with careful precision, complimented my pot roast, volunteered for dishes. I started to think this might actually work. Week 2, I came home from my Tuesday grocery run to find my kitchen reorganized. The spices I'd arranged by frequency of use were now alphabetically arranged in matching clear containers with printed labels. "I hope you don't mind," Amber said. "I noticed your system was a bit chaotic, so I streamlined it. I studied organizational psychology in college. Alphabetical is more efficient for neural processing." I stared at my cumin buried behind allspice I used twice a year. "I had my own system," I said carefully. "Oh, I know. But you'll get used to this in no time." She patted my arm like I was a child. "Trust me, this is better." Better than what? Than how I'd had it for 35 years? But she'd spent money on those containers. She'd spent hours reorganizing. She was trying to help. "Thank you, Amber," I heard myself say. Marcus came home that night. "Wow, babe, the kitchen looks amazing. So much better." Over the next month, more changes appeared. My cream curtains replaced with heavy gray ones that darkened the living room. My family photos relocated from the hallway to my bedroom. Shared space should have neutral aesthetic, Amber explained. Abstract art from West Elm hung where David and the boys used to smile from the walls. Each time, Amber had a reason: energy efficiency, modern design. She was contributing, improving. Each time Marcus praised her initiative. Each time I swallowed my objection and told myself, 6 to 8 months, I can handle this. Then month 3 arrived, and Amber crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I opened the kitchen cabinet to set the table for Sunday dinner. The cabinet was empty. Not just empty, reorganized with cheap white IKEA plates stacked where my wedding china used to be. The china with delicate blue flowers that my mother had given me as a wedding gift 43 years ago. The plates David and I had used for every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every anniversary worth celebrating. Gone. "Amber?" My voice came out strangled. "Where are my plates? The ones with the blue flowers?" She appeared from the living room, drying her hands on a towel. "Oh, I've been meaning to tell you. I decluttered the kitchen yesterday. I donated those old dishes to Goodwill. They were just taking up space and nobody uses formal china anymore." The room tilted. "You donated my wedding china?" "Mrs. Chen, they were so old. Some of them had tiny chips. I replaced them with this beautiful modern set. See? Clean white, goes with everything. Dishwasher safe. Much more practical." My hands were shaking. They were my mother's gift to me. David and I used those plates for 23 years. "And I'm sure she'd want you to have nice current things, not dusty heirlooms collecting damage." Amber smiled like she'd done me a favor. "Trust me, you'll love these once you get used to them. Minimalism is so freeing." I stood there holding a plain white plate that cost about $4, thinking about the blue flowered plate I'd eaten my wedding cake from. The one I'd used for Marcus's first birthday. The one David had carefully hand-washed after our 20th anniversary dinner because it was too precious for the dishwasher. In a Goodwill bin somewhere. Sold for quarters. "You had no right," I whispered. "I was helping." And now there was an edge in her voice. "You've lived alone so long, Mrs. Chen. You've gotten attached to things that don't matter. Objects aren't memories. Letting go is healthy." She walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing there with that cheap white plate in my hands. Marcus came home that evening and noticed immediately. "Wow, new dishes. These look so clean and modern. Much better than those old flowery ones, right, Mom?" And I realized my son didn't even remember that those old flowery ones were from his grandmother. That his father had treasured them for 2 decades. That some things, once thrown away, can never be replaced. That night, I sat in my bedroom looking at my family photos now clustered on my dresser like refugees, and something cold settled in my chest. Not anger yet. something worse. The creeping realization that I was losing control of my own home. Have you ever had someone throw away something irreplaceable of yours? Something with sentimental value they just didn't understand? Tell me in the comments what it was, because what I'm about to share is how that single act of disrespect became something much bigger. The week after the China incident, I started paying attention to things I'd been ignoring. Marcus and Amber had been living with me for 3 months. In that time, they hadn't contributed a single dollar to groceries, utilities, or household expenses. Not $1. I'd been so focused on making them comfortable, on being the generous mother who helps her children, that I hadn't stopped to calculate what their temporary stay was actually costing me. So I did what accountants do. I made a spreadsheet. 3 months of groceries for 3 people instead of 1. An extra $400 a month. $1,200 total. Utilities, water, electricity, gas, had jumped by roughly $150 a month with 2 additional people showering, cooking, doing laundry, running the air conditioning. $450 total. Internet upgrade because Amber needed faster speeds for work. An extra $30 a month. $90 total. Wear and tear, toilet paper, soap, cleaning supplies, the gas they used from my car when theirs was in the shop. Another $300 easy. $2,040. They'd saved their $2,200 monthly rent, plus probably another $800 in utilities and groceries they weren't paying at their apartment. $3,000 a month in savings, just like Marcus had calculated. Except he'd forgotten to mention that his savings came directly from my bank account. I sat at my kitchen table, the table David and I had bought at an estate sale 30 years ago, the table where I'd helped Marcus with his math homework, and stared at my budget spreadsheet. My retirement savings were comfortable, but not infinite. I lived on a fixed income from my pension and Social Security, about $3,800 a month total. My property taxes alone were $8,200 a year. That's almost $700 a month if I divide it out. I'd been subsidizing my son's house fund at the expense of my own financial security, and he hadn't even said thank you. The following Friday, I came home from my monthly lunch with my friend Helen to find 4 people sitting in my living room. Marcus and Amber I expected. The other 2 I didn't. "Mrs. Chen!" Amber jumped up, her smile bright and brittle. "I'm so glad you're home. These are my parents, Richard and Susan Klein. I invited them for dinner. I hope that's okay?" She'd already done it. They were already here, sitting on my couch, drinking from my glasses, making themselves comfortable in my home. Richard Klein was 58, a commercial real estate broker with silver hair and an expensive watch. Susan Klein was 55, a dental hygienist with Amber's same sharp eyes and practiced smile. "Of course it's okay," I heard myself say, even though it wasn't. Even though I'd planned to heat up leftover soup and spend a quiet Friday night watching my cooking shows. "We've heard so much about you," Susan said, her eyes scanning my living room the same way Amber's had that first dinner, taking inventory, judging. "What a cozy home you have." Cozy. The same word people use when they mean small. Amber had ordered Chinese takeout, $48 worth, paid for with Marcus's credit card, which meant paid for with the money they were supposed to be saving. We sat around my dining room table, eating from cardboard containers, and I listened to Susan Klein talk about their house in the suburbs. "We just finished a complete kitchen renovation," she said, showing me photos on her phone. "Quartz countertops, custom cabinets, a wine fridge. It costs $60,000, but you have to invest in your home, you know? These things pay for themselves in resale value." I looked at my kitchen visible through the doorway, the Formica countertops I'd installed in 2003, the builder-grade oak cabinets that came with the house, the regular refrigerator that kept food cold just fine without needing a separate section for wine. "Dorothy's house is paid off completely," Marcus said, and there was something in his voice I didn't like. Pride, but also something else. Calculation. No mortgage at all. How wonderful, Richard said. You must have so much equity built up. Have you thought about a reverse mortgage? Great way to access that equity while you're still alive to enjoy it. I don't need to access my equity, I said carefully. I'm comfortable as I am. Of course you are, Susan said, but her smile was patronizing. Though I imagine it must be hard, maintaining a house this size all by yourself. So much upkeep, so many repairs. I manage fine. Well, it's lucky you have Marcus and Amber here now, Richard said. Young people are so handy with home maintenance these days. Amber and Marcus exchanged a look I couldn't read. After dinner, while I was cleaning up the takeout containers, because apparently having guests didn't mean Amber would help with cleanup, I overheard Susan talking to her daughter in the hallway. How much longer do you think you'll need to stay here? At least 6 more months, Amber said quietly. Maybe 8. We're saving as fast as we can, but we also need to maintain our credit scores, and that means keeping our regular expenses looking normal on paper. And she's okay with you being here that long? She doesn't really have a choice. Marcus already told her we're staying until we have the full down payment saved. What's she going to do? Kick out her own son? I stood frozen at the sink, holding a cardboard container, listening to my future being discussed in my own hallway. What's she going to do? Kick out her own son? 2 weeks later, I was paying my quarterly property tax installment online, $2,100 due the first of the month, when Marcus walked by and glanced at my laptop screen. Wow, that's expensive, he said, leaning over my shoulder. $2,100 every quarter? That's, what, $8,400 a year? $8,200, I corrected automatically. It's based on the assessed value of the property. When this place eventually becomes mine, well, ours. He gestured vaguely toward where Amber was in the other room. We should definitely challenge that assessment. I bet we could get it reduced by at least 15 or 20%. My fingers stopped moving on the keyboard. When this place becomes yours? I repeated carefully. Marcus had the grace to look uncomfortable. I mean, you know, eventually, down the road, inheritance and all that. That's how it works, right? Your father and I bought this house in 1992, I said slowly. I've been paying property taxes on it for 33 years. The house is in my name alone, Marcus. Mine. I know that, Mom. He laughed nervously. I'm just saying, someday in the future, when I die, he meant. He was planning for my death, calculating how to reduce his future property tax burden on the house he expected to inherit. The house he was already living in rent-free. The house his wife was already treating like her own. That's a conversation for a long time from now, I said firmly, but Marcus was already pulling up Zillow on his phone. Actually, have you seen what houses in this neighborhood are going for now? There's a comparable on Maple Street, 3-bed, 2-bath, built around the same time as this place, listed for $540,000. And ours has that nice big backyard. Ours. Not mine. Ours. This house is worth over $500,000, Mom. That's insane. You're sitting on a gold mine. I closed my laptop slowly. I'm not sitting on anything, Marcus. I'm living in my home. Right. But I'm just saying, from an investment perspective, this isn't an investment. It's where I live. Where I raised you. Where your father died. I know. He held up his hands. I'm just excited, that's all. Thinking about the future. He walked away, and I sat there staring at the closed laptop, my heart pounding. My son was pricing my house like a stock he was waiting to cash in. The next afternoon, I was pulling weeds in my front garden when my neighbor Evelyn Rodriguez came over. Evelyn had lived next door for 12 years. She was 72, a retired teacher, and one of the few people in the neighborhood who still remembered David. Dorothy, I need to tell you something, she said without preamble. And I've been debating whether to say anything, but I think you should know. I sat back on my heels, trowel in hand. What is it? I was watering my roses yesterday afternoon, and your living room window was open. I couldn't help but overhear Amber on her phone. My stomach tightened. What did she say? Evelyn looked uncomfortable. She was talking to someone, a friend, I think, about your house. She called it their temporary slum, said they just need to stick it out for 4 more months, then they'll have enough saved to get out. Temporary slum. The house I'd spent 35 years making into a home. The house David built a china cabinet for. The house where I'd raised 2 sons and celebrated 2 decades of birthdays and anniversaries and Sunday dinners. A temporary slum. There's more, Evelyn said gently. She said Marcus told her that once you're gone, the house will be his anyway. So she's just thinking of this as an early preview of their future inheritance. The trowel slipped from my hand. I'm so sorry, Dorothy, but I thought you should know what she really thinks. After Evelyn left, I sat in my garden for a long time, staring at my tomato plants, the ones I'd started from seed in March, the ones that were just starting to produce fruit. 4 more months, Amber had said, not 6 to 8 like they'd originally told me. 4, which meant they'd been lying from the beginning about their timeline, about their savings plan, about everything. That night, I called my younger son, James. He lives 3 hours north in Sacramento, where he teaches high school mathematics. We talk every Sunday, but this couldn't wait until Sunday. Mom, is everything okay? James's voice was concerned. I never called outside our regular schedule. I need to talk to you about Marcus and Amber. Oh God, what did they do now? So he already knew something was wrong. I told him everything. The china, the property tax conversation, what Evelyn had overheard, the way Amber's parents had evaluated my house like appraisers at an estate sale. James was quiet for a long moment. Then, Mom, I need to tell you something I probably should have mentioned sooner. What? Marcus called me about a month ago. He asked if I'd be willing to sign some kind of agreement saying I'd give up my portion of your inheritance when the time comes. Said it would be easier if everything just went to him and Amber since they're the ones helping you in your old age. My blood ran cold. What did you say? I told him to go to hell. James's voice was tight with anger. Mom, you're 67 years old and in perfect health. You don't need help in your old age. And even if you did, I'd be there helping too. What Marcus is doing is… Jesus, Mom. It's financial elder abuse. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being accurate. James took a breath. Listen to me. Marcus is treating your house like it's already his. He's planning your estate like you're already dead. And that woman he married is walking around spending your money and throwing away your belongings like she owns the place. What do? You set boundaries, hard ones, or you tell them to leave. He's my son, James. I'm your son too, Mom, and I would never treat you like this. After we hung up, I sat in my bedroom, the bedroom that used to be mine and David's, that had been just mine for 5 years, and looked at my wedding china plates stacked on the dresser where Amber had relocated my family photos. No, not stacked, clustered, crowded, pushed aside to make room for things that mattered less, just like I was being pushed aside in my own home. Have you ever had a family member treat your home like it was theirs? Or plan your life like they were already in charge of it? Tell me your story in the comments, because what I'm about to share next is when I finally realized that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. I spent the weekend thinking about what James had said, financial elder abuse. The phrase kept echoing in my mind, but it felt too dramatic, too extreme. This was Marcus, my son, the little boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard and call them flowers. The young man who'd cried at his father's funeral and held my hand through the whole service. He wasn't abusing me. He was just thoughtless, inconsiderate, focused on his own future without thinking about my present. That's what I told myself. On Monday morning, after Marcus and Amber had both left for work, I sat down and made a list. Accountant's habit. When there's a problem, you document it, organize it, create a plan to solve it. Boundaries for Marcus and Amber, I wrote at the top. 1. Ask before inviting guests to the house. 2. Do not move, remove, or donate any of my belongings without permission. 3. Contribute $300 per month toward groceries and utilities. 4. Respect that this is my home and I make final decisions about it. Reasonable. Fair. Not asking for the full market rent of $1,700. Just asking for respect and a small financial contribution. I felt proud of myself for setting boundaries like this, for standing up for myself in a calm, mature way instead of just kicking them out like James had suggested. That should have been my warning right there, that I was proud of myself for the bare minimum of self-respect. They came home that evening at 6:15. I had the list on the kitchen table, 3 copies printed out, 1 for each of us. Marcus, Amber, I need to talk to you both. Can we sit down? Something in my voice must have warned them. Amber's eyes went sharp and calculating. Marcus looked nervous. We sat at the dining room table, the same table where we'd eaten Susan Klein's Chinese takeout, where I'd helped Marcus with calculus homework 20 years ago. I've been thinking a lot about our living arrangement, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. And I think we need to set some clear expectations so we can all be comfortable. I slid copies of my list across the table. Marcus picked his up, read it quickly. His face went carefully neutral, the expression he used when he was working up to disagreeing with something. Amber read hers slowly, her jaw tightening with each line. These seem very reasonable to me, I said. I'm not asking for much, just basic respect and a small contribution toward the household expenses you're incurring. Silence. Then Amber's eyes filled with tears. I wasn't expecting that. Mrs. Chen, she said, her voice wobbling. I had no idea you felt this way, that we were such a burden to you. You're not a burden, I just think… No, clearly we are. A tear rolled down her cheek. I've been trying so hard to help, to make things better for you, and all this time you've been keeping a list of complaints about us. It's not complaints, it's just boundaries. I thought when I organized your spices, when I updated your curtains, when I streamlined your kitchen, I was being helpful. Her voice broke. I was trying to show my appreciation for letting us stay here. I was trying to take care of you. Marcus reached over and took her hand. Babe, it's okay. It's not okay. Amber looked at me with those tear-filled eyes. Mrs. Chen, I'm so sorry if I overstepped. I didn't realize you felt like I was invading your space. My own mother always appreciated when I helped improve things around her house. I thought you'd feel the same way. And just like that, she'd flipped it. Made herself the victim. Made me the ungrateful old woman who didn't appreciate help. I do appreciate help, I heard myself saying. I just want to be asked first. Of course you're right. Amber wiped her eyes. I should have asked. That was wrong of me. I'm sorry. She was apologizing, but somehow I felt like I was the one in the wrong. As for the money, Amber looked at Marcus, then back at me. We've actually been keeping track of all our expenses. We were planning to write you a check at the end of our stay for our share of groceries and utilities. We just didn't want to insult you by offering money every month like we were paying rent to family. You were keeping track? I asked. Of course. Marcus pulled out his phone, opened a spreadsheet app. See? We've got everything logged. Groceries, utilities, everything. We were going to settle up when we moved out. Give you one lump sum. We thought that would be easier than monthly transactions. I looked at the spreadsheet. It had dates, amounts, categories. It looked official. It looked like a lie, but I couldn't prove it. "We've budgeted about $2,500 to give you when we leave," Marcus said. "Does that seem fair?" $2,500 for 4 months. That was only $625 per month. Less than I was actually spending. But it was something. And they were offering it without me having to beg. "That seems reasonable," I said slowly. "Good." Amber smiled through her tears. "Mrs. Chen, I promise I'll be more considerate. I'll ask before changing anything. And if I've already changed things you want back the way they were, please just tell me. I want you to be comfortable in your home. Your home, not our home, your home." It was the right thing to say. That night, after they'd gone to their room, I sat in my kitchen looking at my copy of the boundary list. I should have felt good. I'd set boundaries. They'd agreed. Amber had apologized. But something felt wrong. The apology had been too perfect. The spreadsheet had appeared too quickly. The whole conversation had ended with me feeling guilty instead of validated. I called James. "How did it go?" he asked. I told him about the meeting, the tears, the spreadsheet, the promise to pay me back at the end. James was quiet for a long moment. "Mom, do you actually believe they were keeping track? Or did Marcus make up that spreadsheet in about 30 seconds when he saw your list?" I don't know. And the crying. You think those tears were real? I thought about how quickly they'd appeared, how perfectly timed, how they'd shifted the entire tone of the conversation from me setting boundaries to me being comforted by Amber's apology. "I want to believe they were real," I said quietly. "That's not what I asked." "No, I didn't think they were real." "Mom, they manipulated you. They made you feel bad for asking for basic respect in your own home. But they apologized. Words are easy. Watch what they do, not what they say." After I hung up, I looked around my kitchen. The spices still alphabetical. The cheap white plates still in the cabinet. The gray curtains still blocking my light. Nothing had actually changed except that Amber had promised to ask permission next time. Next time. I realized with a cold, creeping certainty that there would absolutely be a next time. That Amber's tears had bought her exactly what she wanted. My guilt, my backing down, my acceptance that maybe I was being too sensitive. I'd tried to set boundaries, and I'd failed. 3 days later, I came home from grocery shopping to find the living room furniture rearranged. Not drastically, just shifted. The couch moved 6 inches to the right. The armchair angled differently. My reading lamp relocated to a corner where the light was worse. Amber was in the kitchen making herself tea. "Oh, Mrs. Chen, I hope you don't mind. I rearranged the living room a bit. The feng shui was really off before. This flow is much better for positive energy." She hadn't asked. 3 days after promising to ask before changing anything, and she hadn't asked. I stood there with grocery bags in my hands, looking at my living room that no longer felt like mine, and I realized that the family meeting had accomplished nothing, except teaching Amber that tears and apologies could get her out of consequences. That night, Marcus came home late from work. I was still awake, sitting in my newly rearranged living room in my father's old armchair that was now positioned where I couldn't see the television properly. "Hey, Mom, what are you doing up?" Amber moved the furniture. "Oh yeah, looks good, right? She's got a real eye for design." She promised she'd ask before changing things. Marcus sighed. "Mom, come on, it's just furniture placement. You're really going to make a big deal about this?" And there it was, the minimization. The suggestion that my completely reasonable expectation of being asked about changes to my own home was me making a big deal out of nothing. She promised, Marcus. She was trying to make the space nicer, for all of us. Why can't you just appreciate that she cares? Because caring would involve asking, Because caring would mean respecting my wishes. Because caring would look like actually changing behavior after apologizing, not just apologizing to make me shut up. But I didn't say any of that. I said, "You're right. I'm being too sensitive." Marcus kissed my forehead. "I know change is hard, Mom, but trust me, Amber's just trying to help." After he went to bed, I moved the armchair back to where I could see the television. In the morning, it had been moved back to Amber's preferred spot. I didn't move it again. Have you ever tried to set boundaries with someone, only to have them apologize and then do the exact same thing again? Tell me about it in the comments, because what I'm about to share is when things escalated from disrespect to something much more calculated. Month 4 arrived with the spring property tax bill. I was sitting at my kitchen table paying it online, $2,100, same as every quarter, when something made me open my bank statement for the previous 3 months. Maybe it was James's voice in my head saying, "Watch what they do, not what they say." Maybe it was the furniture being moved back after I'd moved it. Maybe I was finally ready to see what I'd been avoiding. I pulled up my credit card statements too, my grocery receipts, my utility bills from before they moved in compared to now. Then I created a spreadsheet, the real one, not the fictional one Marcus had shown me on his phone. The numbers didn't lie. 4 months of groceries, $520 per month average, $2,080 total. Utilities increase, $173 per month average, $692 total. The new spice containers Amber bought on their credit card, I'd found the receipt in the recycling. Charged to my credit card that I'd given Marcus for emergencies, $48. The IKEA plates to replace my wedding china, also on my credit card, $73. The West Elm abstract art, my credit card again, $214. Every improvement Amber had made, every gift she'd bought for the house, had been charged to my account. Marcus had my credit card number saved in his phone from when I'd sent him to pick up my prescriptions last year. Total expenses for 4 months, $3,109. The spreadsheet Marcus showed me, the one where they'd budgeted $2,500 to give me at the end, was $509 short of what they'd actually cost me. And that was assuming they actually planned to pay me at all. But that wasn't even the worst part. I opened their savings timeline. They'd told me 6 to 8 months. Amber told her friend on the phone 4 more months, which would make it 6 total from when they moved in. At $3,000 per month in savings, 6 months would be $18,000 saved. Added to the $18,000 they'd already had, that's $36,000 total. But they'd said they needed $60,000 for a down payment. The math didn't work, unless they were planning to stay longer than 6 months, much longer, or unless they were planning something else entirely. That afternoon, James called me. "Mom, I need you to look at something. Are you near a computer?" "I'm on my laptop now." "Open Instagram. I'm going to send you a link." "James, you know I don't use Instagram." "I know. That's why Amber blocked you on it 2 months ago. She probably assumed you'd never look." My stomach dropped. "Blocked me?" The link came through. I clicked it. Amber's Instagram profile loaded. Public, not private. Hundreds of posts, thousands of followers. The most recent post was from 3 days ago, a photo of my living room with the furniture and Amber's new arrangement. The caption read, "Slowly making this space our own. So grateful to be building our future here in our home. Can't wait until we can do a full renovation. Thinking about knocking out this wall for an open concept. What do you think?" Our home. Our. I scrolled down. More posts. More photos of my house presented as theirs. 2 weeks ago, my kitchen with the white IKEA plates visible in the background. Caption, "Loving our new minimalist dishware. Out with the old, in with the new. Fresh starts in our home sweet home." 3 weeks ago, the gray curtains. Caption, "Finally updated these windows. The old curtains were literally falling apart. Sometimes you have to make executive decisions to improve your space, you know?" A month ago, the abstract art on my hallway wall. Caption: added some modern art to our gallery wall. My mother-in-law's old family photos were cute, but so dated. This is much more our aesthetic. Every single post called it our home, or our house, or our space. Every single one presented improvements she had made to her house. Not once did she mention that she was a guest, that this was temporary, that the house belonged to someone else. I scrolled further back to right after they moved in. A photo of Marcus carrying boxes through my front door. Caption: moving into our new place. It needs a lot of work, but we're up for the challenge. Can't wait to transform this space into something beautiful. Follow along for the renovation journey. Renovation journey. She'd been documenting her plans to renovate my house to her 3,000 followers since the day she moved in. Keep scrolling, James said quietly. Look at the comments. I looked. Under the post about knocking out walls. OMG, yes, open concept would be amazing. Are you going to redo the kitchen too? Amber's reply: definitely. The kitchen is so outdated. We're thinking white cabinets, quartz counters, maybe a subway tile backsplash. Probably waiting until we officially own the place, though. Don't want to invest too much in renovations before it's legally ours. Until we officially own the place. Before it's legally ours. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the mouse. There's more, James said. Go to the post from 2 months ago, the one about the guest room. I found it. A photo of Marcus's old bedroom, the room they were sleeping in. Caption: temporary guest room situation until the current owner passes and we can claim our inheritance. Making the best of it for now. At least the location is perfect. Great school district for future kiddos. Until the current owner passes. Current owner. Not my mother-in-law. Not Marcus's mom. Not even Dorothy. Current owner. Like I was a landlord whose lease they were waiting to expire. Except the lease they were waiting for was my life. I called Marcus at work. Hey Mom, what's up? I'm actually in a meeting. I need you to come home. Now. Something in my voice must have warned him. Is everything okay? Are you hurt? I'm not hurt, but we need to talk, immediately. I really can't leave right now. You can, and you will. I'll see you in 30 minutes. I hung up before he could argue. Then I called Amber's cell. She didn't answer. I called again, and again. On the 4th call, she picked up. Mrs. Chen, is something wrong? Come home, now, both of you. I'm at work? I don't care. Come home. I hung up on her too. While I waited, I printed out screenshots of Amber's Instagram posts, all of them. 23 pages of my house being presented as hers, of my belongings being mocked, of my death being planned for. I laid them out on the dining room table in chronological order, like evidence at a trial. Because that's what they were. Evidence. Evidence of systematic deception, financial exploitation, a conspiracy to claim my house as theirs. Marcus arrived first, walking through the front door with his tie loosened and anxiety written all over his face. Mom, what's going on? You scared me. He saw the papers on the table. His face went white. Where did you get those? His voice came out strangled. James sent them to me? Did you know Amber blocked me on Instagram so I wouldn't see what she was posting about my house? Mom, those posts, she's just excited about helping fix the place up. Fix up? My voice was louder than I intended. She calls me the current owner, Marcus. She's telling 3,000 strangers that she's waiting for me to die so she can inherit my house. She didn't mean it like that. How else could she possibly mean it? Amber walked in then, still in her work clothes, her phone in her hand. She took one look at the Instagram printouts and her expression hardened. You went through my private social media? It's public, Amber. Public. You've been broadcasting to the entire internet that this is your house. It's just Instagram, Mrs. Chen. People exaggerate on social media. Everyone knows that. Do they? I picked up the post about knocking out walls. Do your 3,000 followers know you don't actually own this house? That you're a guest here? That you have no legal right to renovate anything? We were just dreaming, Marcus said quickly, planning for the future. Planning for my death, you mean? I looked at my son. You told her this house would be hers. You promised her my house like it was already yours to give. Marcus's jaw tightened. It will be mine someday, Mom. That's how inheritance works. Someday is not today, Marcus. Today this house is mine, my name on the deed, my equity, my home. For now, Marcus said. The words hung in the air like poison. For now. What did you just say? My voice came out as a whisper. Marcus realized his mistake too late. I just meant, eventually, in the future when I'm dead. I finished for him. When I'm dead, this house will be yours. So in your mind, you already own it. You're just waiting for me to get out of the way. That's not what I meant? Then what did you mean, Marcus? Explain to me what for now means when we're talking about whether I own my own house. He couldn't answer. Amber stepped forward. Mrs. Chen, you're twisting everything. Don't. I held up my hand. Don't you dare try to manipulate me right now. I've seen your posts. I've seen you call my house yours. I've seen you mock my wedding china as old dishware. I've seen you plan renovations to a house you don't own. I've watched you spend 4 months treating my home like a dress rehearsal for when I'm dead. We were just trying to help. By throwing away my mother's wedding gift? By charging $200 of art to my credit card without asking? By telling your friends I'm the current owner, like I'm some obstacle between you and your property? Amber's face flushed. I spend money making this place nicer, and you throw it in my face. You spend my money making changes I never asked for so you can post about it on Instagram like you're some home renovation influencer. Don't you dare argue with my wife in her house. The words exploded out of Marcus like a bomb. The room went silent. I stared at my son. What did you just say? Marcus's face was red, his fists clenched at his sides. This is her house too, Mom. Amber lives here. She has a right to feel comfortable here. This is my house, Marcus. Mine. My name on the deed. I paid the mortgage for 33 years. Your father and I built this life here. And now Dad's gone. And you're here alone in a house way too big for one person. And Amber and I are trying to build our future. And you're making everything about your feelings. My house. My feelings. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You just called my house her house. I meant she lives here. That makes it her house too. No, Marcus, it doesn't. She's a guest. A guest I invited to stay temporarily while you saved money. A guest who has spent 4 months systematically erasing me from my own home. Amber grabbed Marcus's arm. Let's just go. We don't have to listen to this. You're right, I said quietly. You don't, because you're leaving. Marcus froze. What? You're leaving. Both of you. I want you out of my house. Have you ever reached that moment where you just couldn't take it anymore? Where you finally stood up for yourself even though you were terrified? Tell me about it, because what happens next is when everything changed. You can't kick us out, Amber said, but her voice had lost its confidence. We have rights. We've been living here for 4 months. As guests, not tenants. You've never paid rent, never signed a lease, never had any legal agreement beyond my verbal invitation to stay temporarily. Marcus, are you going to let her talk to me like this? Marcus was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Mom, you can't be serious. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. My voice was steady, ice cold. 42 years as an accountant had taught me how to deliver bad news without emotion. You're adults with good jobs and $18,000 in savings. Figure it out. We need that money for our house. Then I suggest you start looking for apartments that don't require you to exploit your elderly mother." "Elderly?" Marcus's face flushed. "You're 67 and in perfect health. Old enough to be called the current owner, while my daughter-in-law counts down the days until my death on social media." Amber grabbed her purse. "I don't have to listen to this. Marcus, are you coming?" Marcus looked between us, his wife at the door, his mother standing in the dining room surrounded by printed evidence of their deception. "I need to think," he said quietly. "There's nothing to think about," Amber snapped. "She just kicked us out of our home." "It was never your home," I said. "It was my hospitality, and you abused it." After they left, Amber peeling out of the driveway, Marcus following in his own car, I stood in my living room and felt something I hadn't felt in 4 months. Silence. My house was silent again. No Amber on the phone bragging about our renovations. No Marcus pricing my property on Zillow. Just silence and the sound of my own breathing. Then I sat down at my computer and started working. I'd spent 42 years as an accountant. I knew how to build a case. First, financial documentation. I created a new spreadsheet, the real one this time. Every charge to my credit card that Marcus had access to, every grocery receipt, every utility bill compared to my baseline from before they moved in. 4 months of systematic financial exploitation documented to the penny. Total, $3,109. Second, Instagram evidence. I went back through Amber's entire profile. Not just the posts James had sent me, all of them. I used a screenshot tool to capture everything, the photos, the captions, the comments, her replies planning renovations to a house she didn't own. 28 posts total, all saved as PDFs with timestamps. Third, timeline documentation. I pulled out my calendar and reconstructed every violation, date by date, incident by incident. February 15th, spice cabinet reorganized without permission. February 23rd, curtains replaced without permission. March 2nd, family photos removed without permission. March 16th, wedding china donated without permission. March 23rd, furniture rearranged despite promise to ask first. Each incident documented, each promise broken recorded. By midnight, I had a case file that would make any attorney proud. Then I did what I should have done weeks ago. I called a lawyer. Catherine Mendoza had handled David's estate 5 years ago. She was 62, a real estate attorney with 30 years of experience, and she didn't waste time on pleasantries. I paid $300 for a 1-hour consultation, worth every penny. "Walk me through the situation," she said. I did, all of it. The verbal agreement, the systematic violations, the Instagram posts, the "for now" comment, the financial exploitation. Catherine took notes on her yellow legal pad, her expression getting grimmer with each detail. When I finished, she sat back. "Dorothy, what you're describing is a textbook case of financial elder abuse with a side of attempted fraudulent conversion of property." "Fraudulent conversion?" "Your daughter-in-law is publicly claiming ownership of your house on social media. She's making plans to renovate it. She's telling people it will legally be hers soon. That's establishing a paper trail for a potential adverse possession or unjust enrichment claim down the road." My blood ran cold. Could she actually claim my house? Not successfully, but she could make your life hell trying. The Instagram posts alone could be used as evidence that you'd given them permission to treat the house as their own, that there was some sort of verbal agreement about eventual ownership transfer. There wasn't. I believe you. But social media creates public records. 3,000 people have seen her claim this is our home. That's 3,000 potential witnesses to what she'll claim was an understanding between you. What do I do? Catherine leaned forward. First, you document everything, which you've already done beautifully. Second, you serve them with a formal notice to vacate. California law requires 30 days for month-to-month tenants, but since they've never paid rent and have no written agreement, you could argue they're licensees, not tenants. Still, I'd recommend giving them 30 days to cover yourself legally. 30 days of them in my house? You could do a cash for keys arrangement, offer them money to leave immediately. Given that they've stolen from you and slandered your property rights online, I'd say you have grounds for immediate eviction, but judges prefer to see good faith efforts. I'm not paying them to leave my own house. Then 30 days, certified mail, return receipt. I'll draft the notice for you. And the money they took? The credit card charges? Small claims court. You have excellent documentation. You'd win easily. Whether you'd actually collect is another question, but having a judgment against them creates a legal record of their theft. I thought about Marcus seeing his mother in court. Thought about standing in front of a judge and accusing my own son of financial abuse. There's one more thing, Catherine said gently. You should consider updating your estate plan. Make it crystal clear who inherits what and under what conditions. Add a clause stating that anyone who contests the will forfeits their inheritance entirely. You think Marcus would contest it? I think Amber would encourage him to, and I think you need to protect yourself from that possibility. After the attorney consultation, I called James again. I need you to come down this weekend. Can you take Friday off work? What happened? I told him about the confrontation, about kicking them out, about the attorney consultation. Thank God, James breathed. Mom, I've been waiting for you to do this for weeks. I'll leave Thursday night, be there by midnight. Do you want me to be there when you serve the eviction notice? Catherine's drafting it. She said certified mail is fine, but you want a witness in case they try anything. Smart. I'll be there. James, there's something else. The attorney suggested I update my will. Make it clear that the house goes to, well, I was thinking 50-50 between you and Marcus still, but with conditions. Don't give Marcus 50% after what he's done. The vehemence in James's voice surprised me. He's still my son. He treated you like an obstacle to his inheritance, Mom. He let his wife mock you online. He called your house her house. He said for now when you reminded him you owned it. That's not a son. That's a vulture. I sat with that for a moment. What do you think I should do? Leave him something. Enough that he can't claim you forgot him. $10,000 maybe. Leave him Dad's tools, some personal items. But the house? The house should be mine. I'm the one who calls every Sunday. I'm the one who didn't try to calculate your property tax burden while you were still alive. I need to think about it. Think fast, Mom, because if Amber's as manipulative as she seems, she's going to convince Marcus to fight this, and you need your legal ducks in a row before that happens. After we hung up, I sat in my bedroom. My actual bedroom, not the guest room Amber had called it on Instagram, and looked at my wedding china plates on the dresser. In the morning, I would go to my bank and remove Marcus from my emergency credit card access. In the afternoon, I would meet with Catherine to sign the eviction notice. On Friday, with James there as witness, I would serve it. And then we would see what my son was really made of. Whether the little boy who brought me dandelions was still in there somewhere, or whether Amber had completely erased him, the same way she'd erased my family photos from the hallway wall. Have you ever had to protect yourself legally from your own family? Had to hire lawyers or update your will because people you loved became people you couldn't trust? Share your story, because what comes next is the hardest part. James arrived Thursday night at 11:45, carrying an overnight bag and a grim expression. How are you holding up? I'm angry, I said, and that's keeping me from being sad. Friday morning, Catherine's legal notice arrived via messenger service. 3 pages, printed on law firm letterhead, official and terrifying. Notice to vacate premises. Marcus Chen and Amber Klein were hereby notified they had 30 days to vacate the property located at 847 Oakmont Drive. Failure to comply would result in formal eviction proceedings. Signed, dated, legal. James read it over. When are they coming by to get their things? I told Marcus he could come this afternoon. I didn't tell him you'd be here. Good. He needs to see he can't manipulate you when you have backup. At 2 in the afternoon, Marcus's car pulled into the driveway. Alone. No Amber. He walked in using his key. He still had a key, I realized. I'd need to change the locks after this. Mom, we need to talk. He stopped when he saw James sitting on the couch. What are you doing here? Supporting our mother, James said evenly. Something you forgot how to do. This is between Mom and me. No, Marcus. This is about you exploiting Mom for 4 months while planning to inherit her house. That makes it family business. I handed Marcus the envelope before the argument could escalate. What's this? 30-day eviction notice. Read it. Marcus pulled out the papers, his face going pale as he read. You got a lawyer? I got the same lawyer who did your father's estate, the one you should remember since you're so focused on inheritance. Mom, this is insane. We can work this out. We tried that. You moved furniture the same week you promised to ask permission first. Amber kept posting on Instagram about renovating my house. You called it her house to my face. I was angry. I didn't mean 30 days, Marcus. The notice is legally served. If you're not out by April 27th, I file formal eviction proceedings. Where are we supposed to go? James spoke up. You're both employed adults with good credit and $18,000 in savings. You'll figure it out. That's what you tell people to do when they ask for help, right? Figure it out? Marcus turned on his brother. You don't know what you're talking about. I know Mom called me every week telling me how unhappy she was. I know she was afraid to set boundaries with you because you'd make her feel guilty. I know Amber threw away Grandma's wedding china and you defended her. That's not... Marcus stopped. She told you about the china? She told me everything. Unlike you, I actually listen when Mom talks. Marcus sat down heavily on the couch, the eviction notice crumpled in his hand. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. About Amber. James and I waited. Last night, after we left here, we got into a huge fight. She was furious at you, saying you had no right to kick us out, that we should sue you for wrongful eviction. There's no wrongful eviction case, I said. Catherine already confirmed. I know. I told her that. And she lost it. Started screaming about how we needed this to work. How she'd been counting on living here rent-free for at least another year. A year? I felt cold. You told me 6 to 8 months. I know what I told you. Marcus's voice was hollow. Amber told me 4 months. But last night she admitted she'd been planning on at least 18 months total. She said we needed to save $60,000, not for a down payment, but to pay off her credit cards. The room went silent. What credit cards? James asked. Apparently she has $42,000 in credit card debt from before we got married. She never told me. I sat down across from him. $42,000? Shopping, travel, her old apartment that she couldn't afford. She'd been making minimum payments for 3 years, and the interest just kept compounding. When we got married, she saw it as a way out. If we could live rent-free long enough, we could pay off her debt and then save for a house. So, the whole down payment story was a lie? Not entirely. She did want to buy a house eventually. But first, she needed to clear her debt without me finding out about it. Marcus laughed bitterly. She had it all planned. 18 months of free rent, paying $1,500 a month toward her credit cards while I thought we were saving for our future. How did you find out? I confronted her about the Instagram posts, asked her why she was planning renovations when we were supposed to be saving to leave. She said we weren't leaving for at least another year. I said that's not what we told you. She said... He stopped, swallowed hard. She said you'd be fine with it because you were lonely and liked having us around. That old people always cave if you just wait them out. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. When I told her no, that we needed to apologize to you and figure something out, she told me about the debt. Said if I made her leave now, before she could pay it off, she'd have to declare bankruptcy and it would destroy my credit too since we're married. That's not how it works, James said. Debt from before marriage stays separate unless you co-sign. I know that now. But in the moment, I panicked. And that's when I realized I'd married someone I don't actually know at all. Marcus looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I went to see a divorce attorney this morning, before I came here. I reached across and took his hand. My son, my baby, the little boy who used to bring me dandelions. I'm so sorry, Marcus. I chose her over you. Over and over, I chose her. She threw away Grandma's china and I told you the new plates looked better. She called you the current owner and I defended her. She mocked you online and I said you were being too sensitive. His voice broke. What kind of son does that? The kind who was being manipulated, James said quietly. Amber is very good at what she does, Marcus, but you still have to take responsibility for your choices. I know. Marcus wiped his eyes. Mom, I know 30 days is the legal requirement, but could Amber and I have 2 weeks? I found a furnished apartment that's available April 15th. It's small, it's expensive, but it's available now. I'll pay first, last, and deposit from our savings. Well, from my savings, since apparently none of it was actually ours. 2 weeks is fine, I said. And Mom, the money, the $3,000 you documented. You're right. We owe you that. I have it in savings. I can write you a check today. What about Amber's debt? That's her problem. I'm filing for divorce. The attorney said since we've only been married 6 months and there's no shared property, it should be straightforward. She can deal with her credit cards on her own. He pulled out his checkbook, the actual paper kind, because he was David's son, raised to keep physical records. He wrote, $3,109. His hand shook as he signed it. I'm sorry it's not enough. I'm sorry I can't give you back Grandma's china or the 4 months of peace you lost or the trust I broke. Marcus. I took the check. This is a start. They moved out on April 14th. I watched from my bedroom window as Marcus carried boxes to a U-Haul truck. Amber was there too, her face hard and angry, refusing to look at the house as she loaded her things. She never apologized, never acknowledged what she'd done, just took her belongings and left like I was the villain in her story. Marcus came to the door one last time. I'm leaving my key, he said, setting it on the hall table. And Mom? I know I don't have the right to ask this, but can I still call you? On Sundays? Like before? I thought about it, really thought about it. Call me in 6 months, I said finally. After the divorce is final. After you've had time to figure out who you are without her. Then we'll see. 6 months? 6 months. I need time too, Marcus. Time to trust you again. Time to forgive. Time to make sure you've actually learned something from this. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I love you, Mom. I love you too. But love isn't enough right now. Respect is what matters. And you need to learn how to give that back. After they left, I walked through my house. My quiet, empty, peaceful house. I bought new china. Not as nice as what I'd lost, but mine. I chose the pattern myself, paid for it with my own money, and put it in my cabinet in my kitchen. I moved the furniture back where I wanted it, took down Amber's abstract art, and hung my family photos in the hallway again. I changed the locks. And slowly, over the weeks that followed, my house started feeling like home again. James visited twice a month. He never asked about Marcus, just let me talk about him when I was ready. 6 months later, in October, Marcus called. Hi, Mom. It's been 6 months. How are you, honey? The divorce finalized last week. I moved into a smaller apartment, 1 bedroom, just me. I've been going to therapy, working on everything. Good. Can I come visit? Maybe just for Sunday dinner? I'll bring the groceries. I'll ask before I touch anything. I'll leave when you tell me to. I looked around my living room, at my photos on the wall, at my furniture arranged exactly how I wanted it, at my home that was finally mine again. Yes, I said. You can come visit. But Marcus, I'm not your savings plan. I'm not your inheritance waiting to happen. I'm your mother, and I'm very much alive, and this house is mine for as long as I'm breathing. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. I understand. Good. Come for dinner on Sunday. And Marcus, bring flowers. Real ones, not the dandelion kind. He laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard from him in a year. I will, Mom. I promise. What's the hardest lesson you've learned about family? About the difference between love and respect, or between helping and enabling? Share your wisdom in the comments. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling with the same choice I had to make. A year after Marcus moved out, I was planting new tomatoes in my garden when I heard a car pull up. Marcus, arriving for Sunday dinner, like he had every week for the past 6 months. He got out carrying a bouquet of actual flowers, roses this time, not dandelions, and a reusable grocery bag. Hi, Mom. Hi, honey, what did you bring? Ingredients for pot roast. I thought maybe I could cook it this time. You could teach me Dad's recipe. We spent the afternoon in my kitchen, with my spices arranged how I wanted them, my new china in the cabinet, my rules about my space. Marcus chopped vegetables while I walked him through the recipe David had perfected over 20 years of Sunday dinners. More time, I said. Your father always said you can't have too much time. Marcus smiled, a real smile, the kind I hadn't seen since before Amber. How's therapy going? I asked. Good. Hard, but good. Dr. Williams helped me see how I'd been confusing love with people-pleasing. How I'd been so desperate for Amber to be happy that I forgot about you being happy. About me being happy. And now? Now I'm learning that love means respecting boundaries, that helping someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself, that family isn't about who gets what when someone dies. It's about who shows up while everyone's still living. I reached over and squeezed his hand. Your father would be proud of who you're becoming. I hope so. I know I disappointed him. No, you made mistakes. That's different. And you're fixing them. That's what matters. That evening, after Marcus left, I sat in my living room, my real living room, arranged exactly how I wanted it, and thought about everything I'd learned. I learned that saying yes when you should say no doesn't make you a good mother. It makes you an enabler. I learned that love without respect is just manipulation with a prettier name. I learned that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from, even when those people are your own children. I learned that your home isn't just walls and a roof. It's the place where you get to be yourself, where your rules matter, where your comfort comes first. And anyone who makes you feel like a guest in your own home doesn't belong there. I learned that objects do matter, not because they're expensive, but because they hold memories. My mother's china wasn't just plates. It was her hands placing them in my wedding gift box. It was David washing them by hand after our anniversary dinners. It was Marcus's first birthday cake served on delicate blue flowers. When someone throws away your memories and calls it decluttering, they're telling you who they are. Believe them. I learned that financial elder abuse doesn't always look like someone stealing your credit cards. Sometimes it looks like your own child letting you subsidize his savings while calling it family helping family. I learned that boundaries aren't mean, they're necessary. And people who call you controlling for having them are usually people who benefit from you having none. Most importantly, I learned that I would rather be alone and respected than accompanied and diminished. And you know what? I'm not even alone. James visits twice a month. Marcus comes for Sunday dinners. My friend Helen and I have lunch every Friday. My neighbor Evelyn and I trade garden vegetables. My house is full of life. My life, lived on my terms, in my space. If you're listening to this and you're in a similar situation, if someone in your life is treating your home like theirs, your belongings like obstacles, your generosity like weakness. I want you to know something. You're not being too sensitive. You're not being controlling. You're not being ungrateful. You're being disrespected, and you have every right to protect yourself. Your home is your castle. Your boundaries are your drawbridge, and you don't owe anyone access to either one just because they're family. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask someone to leave. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is trust that cold feeling in your stomach that tells you something's wrong. Your inner wisdom matters. Trust it. And remember, objects aren't memories, but they can hold them. People aren't entitled to your space just because you love them. And saying yes when you mean no doesn't make you kind. It makes you a target. Protect your peace. Defend your space. Set your boundaries. You deserve to feel safe in your own home. What's the hardest lesson you've had to learn about people? Drop it in the comments below. Your wisdom might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone in protecting their boundaries. Your inner wisdom matters. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.